Let me start with a truth that might challenge the way you see your life right now. The struggle you're in is not stopping you, it's shaping you. Most people think struggle is a sign they're off track, but struggle is often proof that you're being prepared. Diamonds don't form in comfort, muscles don't grow without resistance, and greatness does not emerge without pressure. If you're struggling, it's not because you're weak, it's because you're becoming stronger. Here's the hook most people miss. The struggle is not the enemy. The struggle is the instruction manual. Every setback is trying to teach you something you cannot learn in ease. Life doesn't reward intention, it rewards alignment. And struggle is life's way of forcing you into alignment with who you must become to handle what you're asking for. See, most people pray for success, but don't prepare for the responsibility that comes with it. They want the harvest without the plowing, but the struggle is the plow. It breaks up the hard ground of your mindset. It exposes weak beliefs. It reveals habits that no longer serve you. And if you don't quit in the breaking, you come out built, stronger, wiser, sharper. Let me tell you something. Powerful. What you survive, you gain authority over. If you've been through financial pressure, you're being trained to manage money. If you've been through rejection, you're being trained to lead without validation. If you've been through loss, you're being trained to love deeper and lead with empathy. The struggle is qualifying you, but qualification only turns into power if you extract the lesson instead of resenting the pain. Most people ask, why is this happening to me? Winners ask, who is this shaping me into? Because the goal isn't just to get out of the struggle. The goal is to come out stronger than you went in. If you escape too early, you stay the same. If you endure and learn, you elevate. Here's another hook. God doesn't increase people, he increases capacity. And capacity is built in discomfort. The struggle stretches you so the blessing won't break you. That delay you hate, it's protecting you. That pressure you feel, it's expanding you. That season where nothing makes sense, that's where foundations are laid, not feelings. And let me be clear, being stronger after the struggle doesn't mean you never feel pain again. It means pain no longer controls your decisions. It means you stop quitting when it gets hard and start adjusting when it gets real. Strong people don't avoid struggle. They use it as leverage. So if you're tired right now, good. That means you're working. If you're frustrated, good. That means you care. If you've been knocked down, good. Because staying down was never your assignment. Your assignment is to rise with wisdom, not just emotion. Struggle is often misunderstood because most people interpret difficulty as a verdict instead of a signal. When things become hard, the immediate assumption is that something has gone wrong, that the path is incorrect, or that the goal is unattainable. But resistance is rarely a sign of failure. More often, it is evidence of growth in progress. Just as muscles respond to tension by becoming stronger, your life responds to pressure by expanding your capacity. The struggle is not announcing your defeat, it is announcing your development. Here is a truth that changes how you experience adversity. Ease does not produce excellence, and comfort does not create capability. If everything feels heavy right now, it is not because you are incapable. It is because you are being challenged at a level that requires more of you than you have previously given. Growth always demands something new. The moment you step beyond what you have already mastered, resistance appears. That resistance is not there to stop you, it is there to shape you. Most people quit at the exact point where the signal appears. They assume that difficulty means danger, when in reality, difficulty often means dire. The path that leads to transformation will almost never feel smooth. If it did, everyone would take it. Struggle separates those who want results from those who are willing to become the person capable of sustaining those results. The presence of struggle is not an indication that you should turn back. It is confirmation that you have left your comfort zone and entered the territory where real growth happens. Here's the hook most people overlook. What feels like opposition is often alignment. Life applies resistance to expose weak thinking, inconsistent habits, and limiting beliefs. The struggle shows you what must change before you can move forward. It reveals what no longer works. It forces refinement. Without resistance, there would be no reason to upgrade your mindset, your discipline, or your execution. Struggle is life's way of demanding an evolution. Another powerful shift happens when you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this requiring from me? That single question turns frustration into strategy. Struggle signals that your current version is being stretched to meet a future assignment. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. The challenge in front of you exists because the next level demands more structure, more focus, and more personal responsibility than the last one did. People who succeed long-term learn to read struggle correctly. They don't internalize it as identity. They don't label themselves as failures. They separate who they are from what they are experiencing. The struggle is not who you are, it is where you are. And where you are is temporary, but who you are becoming is permanent if you allow the process to do its work. Struggle also exposes commitment. When everything is easy, motivation is cheap. When it gets hard, your true priorities are revealed. Pressure clarifies purpose. If the struggle makes you quit, the goal was never strong enough. But if the struggle sharpens your focus and deepens your resolve, you are discovering what actually matters. That clarity alone is a form of growth most people never achieve. There is a reason breakthroughs are usually preceded by resistance. The struggle builds the internal strength required to handle external success. Without that strength, success becomes a burden instead of a blessing. What feels like a wall is often a weight room. Every time you push through, you develop resilience, discipline, and confidence that cannot be given, only earned. The key is not to eliminate struggle, but to interpret it correctly. When you stop seeing it as a sentence and start seeing it as a signal, your behavior changes. You stop panicking and start preparing. You stop complaining and start correcting. You stop retreating and start reinforcing the skills and mindset needed to move forward. Struggle does not mean stop, it means adjust, strengthen, and continue. If you are in a season where nothing feels easy, that is not evidence that you are losing. It is evidence that you are being invited to grow. The struggle is speaking. The only question is whether you will listen, learn, and rise stronger because of it. Pressure has a way of introducing you to a version of yourself you cannot meet in comfort. When life applies weight, it is not trying to crush you, it is trying to reveal you. Capacity is not something you think your way into. It is something you grow into under demand. Until pressure shows up, you never truly know how much you can handle, how much you can endure, or how much you can lead. Comfort hides potential. Pressure exposes it. Here's the first hook most people miss. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your capacity. And capacity is never built in moments of ease. It is built when circumstances require more patience than you think you have, more discipline than you've practiced, and more courage than you're comfortable with. Pressure forces expansion. Without it, growth remains theoretical. Most people try to avoid pressure, not realizing they are avoiding the very environment that creates strength. They pray for opportunities, but resist the weight that comes with them. Yet every meaningful opportunity arrives carrying responsibility, risk, and discomfort. Pressure is the price of progress. If you want more influence, more impact, more success, you must develop the internal structure to support it. Pressure is how that structure is formed. Think about this. When pressure increases, excuses decrease. Suddenly distractions lose their appeal. Priorities become clear. Focus sharpens. Pressure strips away what is unnecessary and highlights what is essential. It demands that you operate at a higher level of intention. In that sense, pressure is not chaos. It is clarity. It forces alignment between who you say you want to be and how you actually show up. Another hook that changes everything is this. Pressure doesn't create weakness, it reveals it. If something collapses under pressure, it was never strong enough to begin with. That applies to habits, systems, mindsets, and even relationships. Pressure is diagnostic. It shows you where reinforcement is required. Instead of resenting that exposure, wise people use it as information. They don't deny the weak points, they strengthen them. Pressure also accelerates maturity. It shortens the distance between intention and execution. Under pressure, you don't have the luxury of endless analysis. You must decide. You must act. You must own the outcome. This is how leadership is formed, not in theory, but in moments where hesitation carries a cost. Pressure forces responsibility, and responsibility builds authority. There is a reason you look back at your hardest seasons and realize they changed you the most. Those moments demanded more from you than you thought you had, yet somehow you found it. That discovery becomes permanent. Once you know you can survive pressure, fear loses its grip. Confidence becomes grounded, not emotional. You stop asking, can I handle this? And start saying, I've handled worse. Pressure also redefines limits. Many of the boundaries people live by are imaginary, formed by comfort rather than capability. Pressure challenges those assumptions. It pushes you past self-imposed ceilings and exposes how much potential was dormant. What once felt impossible becomes manageable, then normal. Capacity expands quietly, but permanently. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to stop seeing pressure as an interruption and start seeing it as an invitation to grow up, level up, and show up differently. Pressure is not a sign that you are behind. It is a sign that life is requiring more from you because more is available to you. Demand follows potential. If you are under pressure right now, it is not because you are lacking. It is because you are being stretched. Something in your future requires a version of you that does not yet exist. Pressure is building that version. It is revealing your capacity, expanding it, and preparing you to operate at a level you could not sustain before. The question is not whether pressure will come. It always does. The question is whether you will resist it, resent it, or rise within it. Because when pressure does its work and you allow it to shape you, you don't just survive. You emerge with greater strength, clarity, and authority than you had before. Every setback carries more than disappointment. It carries training. Most people only see what they lost, what didn't work, or what went wrong. Very few recognize what they are gaining in the process. Authority is not assigned. It is earned through experience. And experience is most often forged in adversity. The challenges you endure are not random interruptions. They are rehearsals for the influence you will one day hold. Here is a powerful hook. You cannot lead people where you have never been. Credibility is built in the PLA, CES, where you were tested, not where things went smoothly. When you survive a setback, you gain insight that cannot be taught in a classroom or borrowed from a book. You gain understanding rooted in reality. That understanding becomes authority because it is authentic, proven, and earned. Setbacks force you to develop skills you would otherwise avoid. They demand problem solving, emotional regulation, patience, and strategic thinking under pressure. When everything is working, growth is optional. When something fails, growth becomes mandatory. That is why setbacks accelerate development. They push you to refine your approach, question your assumptions, and rebuild stronger than before. Each lesson mastered becomes a tool you carry forward. Another overlooked truth is this: authority comes from responsibility taken, not blame assigned. When a setback occurs, it presents a fork in the road. One path leads to excuses and stagnation. The other leads to ownership and expansion. Those who choose responsibility gain power over the situation. They stop being victims of circumstance and start becoming architects of solutions. That shift alone elevates their capacity to lead. Setbacks also deepen perspective. When you've experienced failure, you learn how fragile success can be and how resilient people must become. You develop empathy, discernment, and humility, qualities that strengthen leadership rather than weaken it. People listen to those who understand struggle because struggle produces wisdom. Advice from someone who has endured carries weight. That theory never will. Here's another hook. Most people ignore what breaks unprepared people builds qualified ones. If a setback doesn't destroy you, it authorizes you. It proves that you can withstand pressure, absorb loss, and continue forward with clarity. That resilience becomes part of your identity. Over time, others begin to trust your judgment, not because you are perfect, but because you are proven. Setbacks also reveal patterns. They show you what decisions led to certain outcomes and where adjustments are necessary. This awareness sharpens judgment. Good judgment is one of the highest forms of authority. It is developed not by avoiding mistakes, but by learning from them quickly and honestly. Every setback you analyze correctly becomes an upgrade to your decision-making framework. There is also a hidden confidence that comes from survival. When you've been through financial strain, rejection, loss, or failure, and still found a way forward, fear loses its intensity. You no longer rely on circumstances to validate your worth. That internal stability allows you to lead calmly in uncertainty. Calm under pressure is a rare and valuable trait, and it is almost always the result of past adversity. Many people want influence without qualification. They want respect without refinement. But authority without experience is fragile. It collapses at the first sign of resistance. Authority built through setbacks, however, is durable. It has depth. It commands attention without demanding it. People sense when someone has been tested and transformed by difficulty. The setbacks you face today are building the voice you will use tomorrow. They are shaping your discernment, strengthening your resilience, and qualifying your leadership. If you endure with awareness, extract the lesson, and apply it forward, every setback becomes a credential. Not something that disqualifies you, but something that prepares you to stand with confidence, clarity, and earned authority in the future. Delay has a way of testing your patience while quietly developing your capacity. Most people interpret delay as denial, assuming that if something has not happened yet, it never will. But timing is rarely about permission, it is about preparation. Delay is not the absence of progress. It is progress happening beneath the surface. What feels like waiting is often development in motion. Here's the hook that reframes everything. Speed without structure creates collapse. If the outcome arrived before you were ready to sustain it, it would become a burden instead of a breakthrough. Delay exists to build the internal systems required to handle external success. It strengthens discipline, clarifies priorities, and exposes areas that still need refinement. What you are waiting on is often waiting on you. Delay forces you to confront your relationship with control. When things do not move on your timeline, frustration reveals how much you rely on certainty rather than growth. In that tension, maturity is formed. You learn to operate with consistency even when results are not immediate. That ability to show up without instant reward is a defining trait of high performers. Delay trains endurance. Another overlooked truth is that delay filters motivation. When the excitement fades and the applause is absent, what remains is commitment. Delay asks a difficult question. Will you continue when progress is invisible? Those who do build character that cannot be shaken by external validation, they learn to draw confidence from alignment rather than outcomes. That inner stability becomes a competitive advantage. Delay also refines vision. When results are postponed, you have time to examine why you want what you want. Surface level desires lose appeal, while purpose-driven goals gain clarity. This refinement prevents misalignment. Many people get what they ask for too soon and discover they asked for the wrong thing. Delay protects you from premature success. Here's another hook. Most people overlook delay is often protection, not punishment. It shields you from consequences you are not yet equipped to manage. It prevents exposure before skill, visibility before maturity, and expansion before foundation. The delay you resent today may be the reason you are able to stand tomorrow. In delay, habits are either strengthened or exposed. Without immediate rewards, inconsistency becomes obvious. Discipline is either developed or abandoned. Delay reveals whether your effort is driven by purpose or by pressure. Those who learn to work without applause build systems that sustain them long after motivation fades. Delay also sharpens discernment. You become more selective with opportunities, more thoughtful with decisions, and more intentional with time. Rushed success often leads to reckless choices. Delayed success tends to produce strategic thinkers. The waiting season forces you to think long-term instead of chasing short-term relief. There is also a quiet confidence that grows during delay. When you continue to prepare despite uncertainty, you build trust in your process. That trust reduces anxiety and increases focus. You stop chasing every opportunity and start honoring the ones aligned with your direction. Delay teaches patience, but more importantly, it teaches precision. Many people underestimate how much growth happens when nothing seems to be happening. Roots grow in darkness before anything breaks the surface. Foundations are laid underground before structures rise above ground. Delay is where depth is formed. Without depth, elevation becomes dangerous. If you are in a season where progress feels slow, it does not mean you are stagnant. It means something is being built that cannot be rushed. Delay is not a detour, it is part of the design. It is development in disguise, quietly preparing you to handle what is coming with strength, wisdom, and sustainability. Most people mistake quitting for clarity. When something becomes difficult, they assume the resistance means the path is wrong, the goal is unrealistic, or the effort is wasted. But difficulty does not require abandonment, it requires adjustment. Progress rarely demands that you stop, it demands that you evolve. The difference between those who succeed and those who stall is not talent or luck, but the willingness to adapt without losing direction. Here's a hook that reframes struggle ends. Can'tly, if the plan isn't working, change the plan, not the purpose. Too many people throw away the destination because the route got uncomfortable. Growth does not ask you to quit. It asks you to think differently. When something breaks down, it is often exposing a flaw in strategy, timing, or execution, not in vision. Adjustment is a skill, and like all skills, it must be practiced under pressure. When circumstances shift, rigid people snap. Flexible people recalibrate. They observe what is happening without ego, assess what needs to change, and move forward smarter. This ability to pivot while staying committed is one of the highest forms of resilience. It keeps momentum alive even when conditions are unfavorable. Another powerful hook is this: quitting feels like relief, but adjustment creates results. Quitting removes the discomfort temporarily, but it also removes the opportunity for growth. Adjustment keeps you in the game while upgrading how you play it. It requires humility, awareness, and discipline, qualities that compound over time. Most breakdowns happen because people cling to methods instead of outcomes. They become emotionally attached to how something should work instead of staying focused on what they're trying to achieve. When the method fails, they interpret it as personal failure. But mature thinkers separate identity from strategy. They understand that changing tactics is not weakness, it is intelligence. Adjustment also demands honest self-evaluation. It forces you to ask difficult questions. What am I doing that isn't effective? Where am I inconsistent? What skill do I need to develop next? These questions are uncomfortable, but they are necessary. Growth begins where excuses end. The willingness to self-correct is what keeps effort from becoming wasted motion. Here's another hook most people ignore. Persistence without adjustment is stubbornness, not strength. Doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting a different result is not resilience. It is resistance to learning. Strong people listen to feedback. They read the environment. They refine their approach. Strength is not about pushing harder in the wrong direction. It's about moving smarter toward the right one. Adjustment keeps hope alive because it restores agency. When people quit, they surrender control. When they adjust, they reclaim it. They stop asking, why isn't this working? And start asking, what can I do differently? That shift turns frustration into strategy. It transforms setbacks into stepping stones. Adjustment also protects vision. Many people lose sight of their goals not because the goals were wrong, but because the process demanded growth they were unprepared for. When you learn to adjust, you preserve the dream while upgrading the dreamer. You become more disciplined, more skilled, and more self-aware with each recalibration. There is also a confidence that comes from learning how to adapt. Once you realize that obstacles don't end journeys, they refine them, you stop fearing difficulty. You understand that no challenge requires quitting, only learning. That confidence compounds because it is built on experience, not motivation. Every meaningful path requires adjustment. Markets change, circumstances shift, people evolve. The ability to stay committed while remaining flexible is what separates temporary effort from lasting success. When it gets hard, the question is not whether you should stop, it's what needs to change so you can continue forward stronger, wiser, and more effective than before. Every struggle leaves an imprint, whether we recognize it or not. The true measure of growth is not in avoiding difficulty, but in how we emerge from it. When you endure a challenge with purpose, the person who walks out on the other side is fundamentally different from the one who walked in. Strength, wisdom, and discipline are not abstract concepts. They are earned in the crucible of adversity. What many people fail to realize is that the struggle doesn't just end, it upgrades you. Here's a hook most people miss. Your future self is forged in your current hardships. Every test, every failure, every obstacle is designing a version of you capable of handling more than you can imagine today. If you exit a challenge the same way you entered it, the struggle was wasted. True growth demands that you carry something forward. Lessons learned, perspective gained, and resilience cultivated. Many people look at struggle and see only frustration, pain, and limitation. They ask, why me? Or when will this end? Winners, on the other hand, ask, how is this building me? Every setback exposes weaknesses, but it also exposes opportunities to strengthen what matters. It forces evaluation of character, habits, and mindset. If you face it with awareness, you don't just survive, you evolve. Another hook that changes the narrative: permanence is an illusion. Struggle is temporary, but growth is permanent. The discomfort you experience is momentary, but the transformation you gain from enduring it stays with you for life. Each difficult season is a workshop in resilience, discipline, and problem solving. You carry the results of that work into every subsequent challenge, making you exponentially more effective over time. The strongest people are not those who avoid hardship. They are those who allow it to teach them. They understand that adversity does not diminish potential. It clarifies it. It reveals areas of strength, exposes gaps in knowledge, and cultivates adaptability. What once felt impossible becomes manageable because the struggle forced preparation. The experience becomes a template for future challenges, a blueprint for excellence that can only be built through trial. Here's another hook to consider. Adversity accelerates wisdom in ways comfort never can. When life is easy, lessons are subtle and slow to register. Under pressure, learning becomes immediate, unavoidable, and impactful. Every failure, every rejection, and every roadblock contains information about how to act better, think smarter, and lead more effectively. Those who extract that information gain a competitive advantage over those who only pursue comfort. Struggle also builds confidence that is unshakable. Once you face circumstances that seemed insurmountable and emerge, fear loses its power. Doubt diminishes. You stop asking whether you can handle challenges and start knowing that you can. That confidence is quiet but resolute. It allows you to move decisively, even when uncertainty is present. That is the hallmark of someone who has been upgraded through adversity. Many people underestimate the cumulative effect of enduring struggle. Each trial, no matter how small, compounds. Lessons from one challenge prepare you for the next. Strength gained in one season supports resilience in the next. Over time, you develop an internal fortitude that is independent of circumstances, making you capable of achieving goals that once seemed out of reach. Here's a final hook. The struggle may shape you in ways you do not yet recognize. Some of the skills, habits, and character traits you develop under pressure will only reveal their value years later. Patience, discipline, emotional intelligence, and perspective, these are invisible in the moment, but indispensable in the future. Every difficult experience is an investment in the person you are becoming. When you emerge from struggle, you are not the same person. You are stronger, more capable, more disciplined, and wiser. The challenges that once threatened to break you now serve as proof that you can endure, adapt, and conquer. The struggle does not define you, but how you respond does. And when you respond with intention, the result is permanent growth, permanent strength, and permanent preparation for the next level. Let me close with this. Don't curse the season that's building the strength you'll need for the next level. Don't rush that's refining you. And don't ever let a temporary struggle convince you of a permanent limitation. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are being built. And when you come out of this, and you will, you won't just be relieved. You'll be ready, stronger, wiser, unstoppable, stronger after the struggle.